A lot of the high density housing in Australia is terrible.
And I had a dud unit in Melbourne. I was on the body corp, so I could see all the issues with legals and leaks and prices just going up. So it was very negatively geared. So I had to make a very difficult emotional decision to sell at a bit of a loss, but just free up my money.
How long did you own it for?
2-3 years. Yeah. So I just had to write that off as a learning experience, and I just needed to free up that money to leverage it better.
I mean, a lot of people might want to give up at that point, because I know at one point you were told you couldn't get a borrowing capacity.
Yeah. I suppose just getting to the next tax return that might change things and sort of jiggling things.
Every year, your wage is going to go down. Every year, your buying power goes down. Every year, things are going to inflate and go up. But hard assets are going to inflate. That is the fact of it.
I think at one stage there's 2,000 people migrating to Australia every day. I thought they've all got to live somewhere, might as well, just was a no-brainer to me to get onto property.
Really, what we need to do is we need to increase the supply. We need more properties to fix the housing crisis, not more buyers or more money to buy property. Time is running out for everyone. This is probably the last property boom of the 20s. And in the next 10, 15 years, people won't be able to afford property anymore.
All right, team. Well, welcome to Thursday night's Money for Life Mastermind. Clearly, I am not George. George is traveling at the moment in the US. So I'm Michelle, if you haven't met me, one of the property coaches at Positive Property. And I'm going to be hosting you for the session tonight. So here's how tonight's going to run. So first, George has sent us a video update of the state of the nation. So that's just an update of the property market, where things are at and things like that. Then we've got, I'm going to do a case study with one of my amazing clients, Jane Wilson, who's here with us at the top here. And she's got an incredible story that we're going to share, and it's going to be really inspirational for everyone. But the topic of tonight is the top 3 things that you need for successful property investing. So that's what we're going to delve into a little bit later. But I'd love to start with a little icebreaker, which is one word. Just type in the chat one word that sums up your property investing journey so far. Slow, challenging, unlucky. What else? Something good, hopefully. Just starting. Motivating, interesting, positive, challenging, mixed bag, exciting, frustrating, great, challenging, rolling. I love it. Yeah, so you can see that you can see that, there's challenges along the way, and this is exactly why we have the community, the circle of safety, the coaches, and everything to help you with those challenges. Lee's waiting. What else? Advancing, bit of everything. Yeah. So if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So that's why we're here together, helping each other move through all of these ups and downs. All right. So, so grab your beverage of choice, guys, wine, coffee, water, whatever it is. Let's sit back and let's get an update on the market from George. I don't know if you did it in LA or wherever you did it, but yeah, it's an update snapshot of the market. So Kim, can you just play the state of the nation for us?
Hello, George Markowski here, coming to you from LA. I'm currently in Hollywood, and I thought I'd pre-record this and say hello to everyone. So welcome to your weekly Money for Life. I'm going to endeavour while I'm doing my America trip to keep you updated of what's been going on. We'll do a weekly video, and then my team are going to jump on and do other things as well. What I'd like to mention is I'd like everyone to type in their questions, because what I'm going to do is do a Q&A next week, a long Q&A, so the more questions the better, so I can really get into depth. What am I doing here? I'm here in the States because I've just went to a conference in Palm Springs, spent some time with some of the most successful businesses and coaching businesses from around the world. We got to talk to people like Sabri Subi came along from Shark Tank from Australia. Then we had Ryan Dice, he came along as well from Digital Marketer. So we had some really big names there, a lot of learning and learning how to, I guess, improve my business, be a better coach, and be a better founder. And got a lot of work, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. The journey. It's all about the journey and the journey, not the destination. That's what we're going to realize. But now, let's talk about the state of the nation, what's happening in Australia, and fill you in. Let me share my screen. Tonight's topic is going to be the top 3 things you need to succeed. And Michelle is going to be talking with one of our members, Jane, about this tonight, which is great. So welcome, Jane. Welcome, Michelle. You're right here, right now listening, which is great. So, state of the nation. Australia is getting a lot of immigration. And it's no secret, but Australians are actually getting fed up. A recent opinion poll showed that 66% of Australians want immigration reduced to help fix the housing crisis. So this is the preferred policies to address the housing crisis. What people support, what don't. Step 1, increase home buyers grants. So 69% of people support that. Well, guess what? It's not going to help. This is actually going to be detrimental to the housing crisis. What you've got to understand is there's demand and supply. And when it comes to any situation, it all comes down to demand and supply. That's how basic it is. It's a bit like when Einstein discovered E equals mc squared. One little equation that shows us the whole universe and how it works on the large scale. Pretty amazing. E equals mc squared is so powerful that with that equation, we can actually find out about gravity, about where planets go, about everything. So the supply and demand, when it comes to capitalism and people and the way people act, the supply and demand is the simple equation that determines all of it. And what we're going to do is look at things and go, okay, if there's a housing crisis, what does that mean? It means that we've got too much demand, not enough supply. So how do we fix it? Well, to fix, if there's too much demand, not enough supply, to fix it, what you need to do is increase supply. I'm going to say this again. You've got to increase supply to fix the problem. Now, any policy that increases demand is actually doing the opposite. And I wish I could repeat this over and over again to our governments, to people, and to everyone, because people are just not listening. And I don't know what's wrong with them. Are they stupid or something? Don't they understand how this works? So if you increase first home buyer grants, what you're doing is increase demand. The rental crisis gets worse. Next one, reduce the rate of international immigration. Yes, that's a demand thing. So if you get less people coming to Australia, there's less demand for property. That will help the rental crisis. Increase support for the first home buyers through shared equity scheme. Once again, all this does is create more demand and doesn't help the supply. So it doesn't fix the housing crisis, it makes it worse. Investing more in social housing increases the supply. So this actually helps the housing crisis. Limiting rent increase for private renters, then what that does is that reduces the supply because then less people want to invest. So it doesn't help the housing crisis, makes it worse. Allow first home buyers to access to superannuation. This one is an interesting one, and I'm not that against it. The thing is, your superannuation is your retirement fund, and a house is probably the best retirement fund you could ever get. So first homeowners, if they could access their super and buy property, does it help the supply? No. Does it increase demand? Yes. But will it help people? Yes. Reduce tax breaks for investors. Okay, so investors buy less properties are built, that reduces the supply. Doesn't help. Change planning and zoning rules to allow more high density housing. This can help, but a lot of the high density housing in Australia is terrible. So I thought I'd go through this so you can understand my frustration and also understand that really what we need to do is we need to increase the supply. We need more properties to fix the housing crisis, not more buyers or more money to buy property. That's it. That's my rant. Now I'm going to move on. This is more about Australians are fed up with high immigration. True, 71% of Australians think the country should pause new immigration until there's enough infrastructure like schools, roads, hospitals, housing to support more growth. And I agree. I think that we are a land built on immigration. My parents were immigrants. They came to this country from Macedonia back in the 1960s. So the thing is, I'm not against immigration. I'm an immigrant. Well, I'm not an immigrant. I was born in Australia. I'm born and bred. But my parents are immigrants. So there you go. So I'm not against immigration. However, I'm against the crazy immigration we've got at the moment because I don't think it helps anyone. And I think what we need to do is reduce the immigration, make it sustainable, make it so we actually don't have a housing crisis. We can build the infrastructure around people and have steady growth of immigration bit by bit, because that's the only way we're going to fix the housing supply problem. And really, at the end of the day, when we think about immigration, we need to think, okay, the people that are already here, what are we doing for them, right? Because they're already here. We need to look after people here. And then when the immigrants come in, we need to look after them, because we want to live in a country where we don't, I'm in LA at the moment and I've walked past a lot of homeless people. And I don't want Australia to become like that. And I've been very proud of Australia, the way we haven't had many homeless people. But unfortunately, that's changing. And it's a sad thing. And now, we always follow what happens in UK and America and places like that, unfortunately. And what's happening in America at the moment is BlackRock are going around buying up everything, buying all the properties, because they know they're such a good deal. And what are BlackRock doing in Australia at the moment? Buying properties as well. So this is the last opportunity for people to be sovereign, to own their own property, own their own destiny, because there's going to be two types of people in the future. The people that thank their lucky stars they listened to myself and other people like me and actually got into the investing in property while it was still possible. And then there's going to be people that never ended up going there, that are never even going to own a property and never going to create financial freedom. And they're going to look back towards now and go, wow, I can't believe that was the last chance. Time is running out for everyone. This is probably the last property boom of the 20s. And in the next 10, 15 years, people won't be able to afford property anymore. There's an opportunity to get in there and grab it now or miss out. So more about immigration, what we've spoken about already. At the end of the day, we need sustainable immigration. Right. So the Albanese government persists with record immigration because it's politically convenient. Why? India and China, Australia's biggest migrant sources, vote heavily for Labor. High immigration splits the coalition vote and actually pushes a lot of people to one nation. So that's the other thing what's happening. And with more immigration, what's happening is the political parties and people are getting divided, left and right, and we're becoming more like America, where I think Australia, the way we are, is better. Because, here in America, I'm surprised. You talk to people, and some people that are liberal, they want to find out if you like Trump. And if you like Trump, they're not going to talk to you, not going to be friends with you. Or if you're a Republican, vice versa. They hate each other. And I've never experienced that in Australia. I don't care if you vote Labor or Liberal, or One Nation. It doesn't matter. I mean, your choice to who you want to vote for, and no reason for me to be upset. So it's interesting how they're so divided here and hate each other, and people won't even marry or date each other from a different political party, which is crazy. Like, I would never ask that. I never asked Christina when I married her, are you Liberal or Labor? It didn't matter. So look at this, net overseas migration. So the blue line here is normal migration, and you can see that red balance. We average around 80,000 people a year coming into Australia. And 80,000 people a year is actually really good, because it gives us enough people to help the economy, replace the birth rate, because believe it or not, if we didn't get immigration to Australia, our population would decline because we're not actually at replacement rate. We don't have enough babies to replace ourselves. So we do need immigration. And this is happening in the first world everywhere. Everyone thought there was a big population crisis and we're going to be overrun with, the population and everything else like that. Actually, it's the exact opposite. You look at Korea, South Korea, not North Korea, I don't know about North Korea, but South Korea in 100 years will only have 4 out of 100 people left in their population. That's if they continue going the way they're going. A lot of people in South Korea, Japan, they've got government programs for people to have sex. It's funny, in America and Australia, in the 70s and 80s, they were telling you, don't have sex. They were trying to stop people from doing it. Now, governments are trying to make people do it because they're not having enough babies. So it's crazy. So the first world is becoming that way. And what's happening is, the only place left now is Africa and some parts of Asia where people are actually having more babies than to replace themselves. But that, as soon as they become wealthier, that changes, because as people get wealthier, People get married later. Women have a career. They don't have babies as soon. Sometimes they miss their window. And, what happens is as women get more educated, they have less babies. That's a fact. And that's just the way it is. So you look at the migration, normal migration, and then you look at that green line of 300,000, and then 2020, look how huge that was. What they're saying is we're going to be getting around 300,000 people a year emigrating. So this is basically the big Australia immigration thing that we're doing. So it's pretty big. And we just don't have the infrastructure at the moment to fix that. We're going to get much better at building infrastructure, building schools, building houses, building roads and all that. We just don't have the capacity. Now, Australia's housing bubble is really a land bubble. So if you look at this, residential land, it's risen from 1.1 times GDP in 1989 to 3 times GDP in 24-25, right? Why is this? Because land's gone up in value, but not only that, there's red tape and other costs associated when you develop land. You look at residential land as a percentage of dwelling values. Look how high it is now. So it's gone from 54% in the 1990s to 75% in 24-25. So the land portion of your house, because you got the house and you got land underneath it. And the land now is going up in value compared to the house. So you can see what's happening is land sizes are shrinking, not just Australia, but all around the world, because this has happened through inflation. Because what happens is the government does this thing called quantitative easing, and they print money. And as they print money, it pushes land prices up. And that's the way it works. Now, they slowed down printing money, but from what I've heard, because of all the debt, because what happens is governments get into debt. They get in a lot of debt. And America's in the biggest debt it's ever been. And when governments are in a lot of debt, there's only one way out of it, because the problem is the interest in the debt is so crippling that they can't afford to pay it. So the only thing they can do is really do quantitative easing. So what they do is get into the printing press and start printing dollars like crazy. And as they do that, they flood the market with dollars. What it does is reduce the value of the dollars. So it's a little trick to reduce their loan. Let's say I owe $1 million, right? And there's only $10 million in circulation of dollars. Now, let's say I print and double it, and there's $20 million circling around the place, because what dollars are really, they're pieces of paper with an IOU written on it, saying, here's a piece of paper, I'll give you this value for this piece of paper, or swap it with you. So if I print another 10 million and there's 20 million, then my $1 million loan is not really a $1 million loan anymore. It's a $500,000 loan because I've doubled the supply of money. Does that make sense? So as it goes up, that goes down. So what happens is governments are addicted to printing money, and it's getting more furious and worse every single year. Since 2008, after the GFC, they started printing. Then what happened was we had the COVID, they started printing. They're going to start printing again for no reason at all because of debt. And what governments are doing, they're just borrowing more money and just printing more cash, borrowing more money, printing more cash. The debt piles up higher and higher and higher and higher. It's crazy. And where does it end? What happens next? What's going to happen? I mean, are they going to stop printing? Well, they can't. See, they can't stop printing money. And the reason they can't stop printing money is because if they stop printing money, their debt's going to be too high. Then the interest payments they won't be able to afford, and they're going to go bankrupt, and just the economy is going to crash. And everyone's screwed. And the whole financial system will collapse. Now, they don't want the financial system to collapse. And all the people in power are going to make sure it doesn't collapse, because if it collapses, all the big billionaires at the top are going to lose their money. And that ain't happening. So they're going to keep printing and keep printing. This is what it means for you. What it means for you is that every year your wage is going to go down. Every year your buying power goes down. Every year things are going to inflate and go up. But what's going to go up and inflate? Not everything, because of modern technology. A lot of things get cheaper as we go along, but hard assets are going to inflate. That is the fact of it. So look at what's happening. Electricity costs, food, fuel, hard assets have all gone up. They're going to keep going up. So the only hedge you got against inflation is actually buying property or a hard asset, because then that's growing faster than the inflation. So then you're keeping up. But if you've got money in the bank, 2025 and 2026, you're screwed. That money is going to shrink. And what you need to do is you need to get that money and put it into hard assets as quick as you can, because it's going to be finished. That's the fact of it. I've been in America going around talking to people. It's fascinating what's happening here at the moment. But people are moving their money out of money. Moving their money out of money. The smart money is going to real estate. That's what's happening. Okay, let's keep going. Australian housing values to GDP. Australia's housing stock is now worth 4 times GDP. Now, a lot of people saying, is property in a bubble? Looking at all these charts that I'm giving you, what's happening? What do you do? Do you wait? This is the deal. Property is going to keep going up because they're going to print more money. It has to go up. Is it a bubble? It's never really a bubble, but property, what it does, it goes up, it has a slight correction, and it keeps going up. That's what happens to property. And what people are doing, and you might be doing this right now, they're sitting on the fence, waiting for the correction so they can buy cheap and then jump in and not get caught by the correction. But the correction is very small, but the growth is very big. So it's a bit like this. Let's say you've got an escalator going up and it goes up 100 steps. That's the property market. And you're going up this escalator, but instead of going up the escalator, you're like, shit, I know the escalator is going to drop. And what happens when the escalator drops? It drops 5 or 7 steps, right? You've got one person, he's on the escalator going up, and the other person's waiting at the bottom, waiting for those 7 to drop before it goes up. Now, if it's got 100 steps to go, and you're waiting for those 7 to drop, by the time it drops, you're already 30, 40, 50, 60 steps behind, and you're behind the 8 ball, and you've missed the whole point. So, the people that wait for the dip, you can't make money out of property unless you've got property. So if you're waiting for the dip, that is really just stupid. It's ridiculous, because you can't time the market. The way you make money out of property is having time in the market. So if you've got the escalator of 100 steps, you want to be there as long as possible to hit all those 100. And then as you hit those 100, there'll be 7 or so that will drop. But it doesn't matter, because you buy, you're going up, drops, you go up. That's the way it works. So lot prices have climbed over $200 a day, depending on the housing crisis. Median lot values rose 6.8% in 24-25. And land prices are rising even faster per square metre as blocks shrink in size. So interesting, strong population growth has boosted building activity. So now land costs are now one of the biggest obstacles to new housing. They've reduced building capacity and made homes even harder to deliver. So instead of cutting immigration to ease demand, the government has pushed it to record highs, driven by international students. Lovely. So what's happening is property investors are front-running first home buyers. This is no surprise. Values rose 1.4% in the middle and 1.2% to the latter quartile. First home buyers and investors are driving demand, boosted by Labor's 5% deposit scheme and strong investor activity. So you look at this Australia housing credit growth, and this orange graph is the investor. And look what's happened to investor credit growth. It's gone right up. And look at owner-occupier, not as high. This is the strongest growth in 10 years. So this is huge. People are jumping in to invest in property because the smart money is going in there. Look at this. Google searches for investment property have got their highest level over 20 years. Now, why? Rental vacancies collapsed to record lows, making investment more attractive. And that's why people are coming back in, because it's a good deal. It's smart. So rental listings have fallen to record low, down 18% over the last year. As a result, rents are climbing again. So you buy a property, rents are going up, you make more money. That's a good investment. Rental growth is rising again across most cities. Investors are chasing higher prices and rents, creating more competition for first home buyers. So what's happening is the government's put this 5% deposit scheme that's put a match underneath the first home buyers that are going in and jumping in. Now investors are competing with them jumping in, and everyone is going in and buying. The demand is going up. And when demand goes up, but supply hasn't gone up, it pushes prices up. So look at Australian dwelling values. With housing supply still tight, prices are set to keep climbing. especially at the affordable end of the market, even without more rate cuts. So we didn't get a rate cut in November. Normally we get a rate cut for my birthday in November, because my birthday is the 5th of November, which is around Melbourne Cup. They're saying they're not going to cut rates for a while because of inflation going up. So it looks like we're not going to have a rate cut for a while, depending on what happens in America. Because you look at America, they're in massive debt and they almost need to cut rates, to cut the interest rate down so they can pay off their debt quicker. They're going to do that or print a lot of money or do both. So watch this space. I'll suggest 2026, America drops rates, USA drops rates, and they start printing like a mofo. And then Australia will follow suit and start dropping rates. And if America starts printing money, then everyone else starts printing as well to keep up the Joneses. That's what happened during COVID. So look at this, auction clearance rates have dropped. That's a good sign. It means the market has solidified, it's slowed down a little bit, which is good, because auction clearance rates, when they go up, price go up, when price go down, or stabilise, and that's what's happening, because we want a stable market. It's been going crazy for a long time. We need a breathing space. What I want to do is my investors to come in, buy all this property while it's relaxed. So FOMO is finally out and people have calmed down a bit. So reality check, sucks. FOMO out of housing market. Despite strong auction results, the housing market has cooled as the expectations of near-term rate cuts fade. The RBA signaled that no cut is likely until mid-next year, shifting buyer sentiment. This pause has eased the recent frenzy in the sub 2 million bracket, where many use the 5% deposit scheme. However, borrowing 95% still remains risky. If rates rise, many could face loan stress from higher payments. What does this mean? It means that if you haven't invested yet, you've got till June next year to get your shit together and do it. And like I said before, the Albanese government 5% deposit scheme has only fueled the housing boom, risking a generation of over-leveraged buyers. The RBA is at least holding rates steady, avoiding more pressure on prices. But if unemployment rises sharply, rate cuts could return by mid-2026. That's what's happening at the moment. The RBA skews Treasury housing propaganda. Treasury modelling of Labor's 5% deposit scheme has been widely criticised as unrealistic. The policy lets first home buyers purchase with 5% down, with taxpayers guaranteeing the remaining 15%. Thank you. I'm guaranteeing the remaining 15%. Treasury claimed it would lift home values by just 0.5% over 6 years. How hilarious is that? However, lateral economics estimate 3.5 to 6.6 price rise by 2026, not just 6 years, showing the policy will likely worsen affordability, not improve it. Hello, the increasing demand, not supply. Surprise, surprise. And you look at the areas here. In areas targeted by first home buyers where price fall on the scheme's caps, the impact is far greater. Property values in these segments are expected to jump by 5.3 to 9.9%. RBA's November report questioned Treasury's 5% deposit scheme model. It warned the scheme would push price and borrowing higher with no limits or income caps. Like past policies, it will only make housing less affordable. Australia's housing market is becoming a state-backed, price-protected. Now, real people, real results. Enough theory, let's talk about proof. Our members are taking action, they're building portfolios and creating freedom. And this is what money for life looks like in action. What I'd like to do is congratulate Claudio. Claudio joined in August 2024. 3 properties in personal name, 1 settled. So he's got an orange belt now. Well done, Claudio. Claudio's commitment and follow through make him a standout. Dedicated, consistent, results driven. Dave, here's a picture of me and Dave. Dave's pretty cool. And Dave actually bought me a Monopoly set when I was in Bali. So thank you, Dave. I really appreciate that. Got that for my birthday. He works night shifts, yet still finds time and energy to take action. He faced challenges, but never gave up, staying positive and pushing forward. He purchased one in Caboolture and now buying a second property in Townsville, a true street smart investor, resilient, proactive, unstoppable, 3 properties. He's an orange belt. Excellent. There you go. Well, you know what? I quite enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun. My favorite time of the week is Thursday night, but actually it's now Tuesday, 7:30 at night here in LA, because tomorrow I'm actually flying to Fremont and then I'm off to San Francisco. And after that, I'm catching up with 2 of my good friends, Adam and Glenn, and we're going to be going to the Grand Prix. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll leave this to Michelle to take over enjoy, and I'll do another recording for you next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Amazing. There's a lot of information to take in. I'd love to know in the chat one thing that you took away from that. What was the one kind of message that you took from all of that? Yeah. Hard assets. Yeah. Keep purchasing. Buy now. Yeah. Travel. Get in now. Yeah. I think he said we've got till June next year. Is that right? And congrats, Dave and Claudio, if you're here. All right, so let's get on to tonight's topic. I brought Jane on tonight because her story sort of really ties into the topic. And I think by listening to her inspirational story, her journey for property investing, you'll be able to really relate to, I guess, what we're talking about tonight. All right, so I'd love to introduce you to my amazing client, Jane Wilson. Thank you so much for coming on, Jane. I know it can be a bit daunting, but we're all here to, obviously learn from each other, inspire each other, learn from each other's challenges, stories, and how we've overcome things. So I'd love you to tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what first inspired you to start investing in property.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm currently in Hervey Bay in Queensland. I'm a Queenslander. So when I started with Positive Property, I owned my own occupier in Burleigh Heads, and I had an investment property in Coomera, and I had a dud unit in Melbourne that I was on the body corp, so I could see all the issues with legals and leaks and prices just going up. So it was very negatively geared. So I had to make a very difficult emotional decision to sell at a bit of a loss, but just free up my money. So my background is I'm a single and fabulous parent, I call myself, but I'm actually a empty nester now. So that's good. Self-employed health professional, so that can be hard getting finance sometimes because I've got a good accountant that really brings down the expenses and is quite good at doing that. So I downsized and I rented, and I've got my son paying my mortgage. My joke is, so I've got him and his friends and girlfriend paying off my mortgage, and then I moved overseas to become a professional pet sitter. So I wasn't paying any rent, and so sold my car and was still working.
Yeah.
And I always
just
followed
go back
barefoot.
a bit. How many properties
Yeah.
how many properties did you start off with?
Two.
Oh,
okay. 3 and sold one. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 and sold one. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. And so I had an amazing time. Yep. Moved overseas. I was a pet sitter. Didn't pay any rent, had some amazing experiences, picked up a lot of dog poo, walked a lot of dogs, kept working. I always did barefoot investor, so I was always saving and living within my means. And then I came back to Australia a few months ago, and then I've started locum work, so that pays for the accommodation and the car and everything like that. And
so the property you sold, where was that and when did you sell it?
In Burwood a few months ago at a loss. Yeah. So just because I could just see, I knew not to buy a unit, but I did anyway. So I just had to sort of make that difficult decision to let go of something that was not doing much.
Yeah. How long did you own it for?
2-3 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just had to write that off as a learning experience, and I just needed to free up that money to leverage it better with land. Yeah, I was just careful with my spending, looked after my health so I could work, lived within my means. And then I just did the maths. Like, I think at one stage there's 2,000 people migrating to Australia every day. I thought they've all got to live somewhere, might as well, just was a no-brainer to me to get onto property.
And when did you move back to Australia? So how long were you working overseas?
I was working overseas about 15 months, moved back about 3 months ago, and then rejigged my finance and found that I could loan money again. And so now I've sort of got a deposit on a property in Mount Barker.
Yeah.
Just after seeing what happened with the Gold Coast corridor and booming, and how, I doubled my money on that property pretty quickly, the equity. So it just seemed like a no-brainer to get something 30 Ks out of a capital city.
So when did you join Positive Property? How long ago? It was like over 12 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been about 2024, perhaps
Yeah.
2024. Yeah.
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 So what's given you the perseverance to kind of keep progressing? I mean, a lot of people might want to give up at that point, because I know at one point you were told you couldn't get a borrowing capacity.
Yeah.
And
I suppose
persevering with it.
just getting to the next tax return that might change things and sort of jiggling things. I suppose just investing in your health so you can work smarter, not harder. And if you looked after your brain health, then you can cope with work and just invest in your education so you can have that income there to support the loans. Yeah. And then just sort of keep chipping away at making the finances look good. And then it just was a few interest rate drops and selling the unit that freed up a bit of that made me look better for the banks. And they're touching me now, so that's good.
Awesome. Yeah. What was the moment where like things did start to shift? Like, and you're like, okay, I can actually really do this now. So what was that sort of, that was when you came back and you got your finance sorted?
Yeah, I think doing a
So,
tax return, and I think it was only, we rejigged it so that it made me look like I was earning 10, or I was earning 10K more. It was only 10K more in that financial year that made the difference. So yeah, there was a bit of overworking going on, but as long as you look after your health and your social life and you've got all that going on, you can sort of tolerate it for a little bit. I suppose it was just time and persistence and chipping away and just keeping putting money away every week to build up that deposit, really. So that,
yeah.
yeah.
So you were saving money as well as then obviously selling the unit to give you that deposit to obviously put towards that next investment
Yeah,
property.
and living within my means, like not like when you're traveling, you've only got 23 kilos, so you really can't buy much. Like you can buy experiences, but you just, yeah, having a good life, but not spending stupid money on stupid things.
Yeah. And so we stayed in contact, I guess, you know, whilst you were overseas, and just regular updates and, you know, where you were at and things like that. So I sort of knew exactly where you were at. And then obviously when you got back recently, I think we had maybe 2 conversations or less, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then you were quite decisive, I guess, in getting into that investment property. So I guess for the newer people as well, like how were you able to be just so decisive in the process?
Probably because I haven't been decisive in the past and I've suffered. Like I know when I was pregnant 24 years ago or something, I pulled out of a property that's since boomed in Brisbane. So I think it's that hindsight of, and I mean, I've been decisive and made mistake with buying the unit, but I think I was decisive when I bought my first investment property, and that's been a no-brainer, and it's gone, you know, increased like $500,000 in 4 years or something. So I think
Yeah.
like it's that decide, commit, act sort of thing. And even if it's the wrong action, it's better than no action sometimes. And yeah, just taking the wins and the losses with everything, whether it's shares or crypto, and just sort of doing nothing and sitting on the fence is probably the worst thing.
Yeah. And what was the decision-making process like to obviously sell that unit? Like who helped you? How did you
Do you know
decide?
who helped me? You know,
Who?
it's embarrassing. My friend Chat GPT was talking about the emotions, like as I talked about the emotions, like a sense of failure. I've bought this lemon. I need to. So I suppose it's working through the failure story and allowing yourself to sort of be emotionally connected with something and just sort of cutting your losses early rather than like just dealing with the emotions of, okay, you've made good decisions and bad decisions, but just make another decision. Yeah, that Japanese saying, if you're on the train in the wrong direction, get off quickly, or else you're going to pay too much fare to go back the other way. So it was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think being on the body corp, I could see the writing on the wall. I'm just like, oh no, this is just going to be a money pit. I'm getting out.
Okay, awesome. And then you just decided to take that action. You made the decision, took the action, got it done. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. So I guess looking back, like what would be the lessons? So you had 3 properties, you're now into you sold one, now you're into one with us. What would be the lessons along the way?
I suppose just being kind to yourself when you do make a mistake and just put it down to experience and take the learnings from it. I suppose that conscientiousness and just chipping away at being really across where the money was going out and in, like not wasting money on stupid stuff, but also having a good life as well, like not, I suppose just sort of going at it all approaches, like saving, investing in your income potential, and just sort of reflecting on what was going well and what was not going well, and just playing the long game.
Yeah. I think what I see with your story is definitely perseverance, definitely doing whatever it takes, not giving up, taking decisive action when you needed to, and then obviously coming back and, like, I think too, you're probably focused on the data and the numbers rather than having an emotional attachment to anything or getting bogged down in details that aren't really relevant as well.
Yeah. And I'm about to buy a block of land with no property on it, and I've never built before, and there's obviously risks in that, but it's just like, we've got to take risks in life, and yes, it could blow out with the time and the everything, but I'm saving on the stamp duty, and just having the I think with you guys was just having the confidence that I don't need to be in the same state and see the, going up or down. It's just, you can do it from afar. You don't have to sort of go and look at it. But yeah, I suppose it's just being decisive, taking a risk, and everything's reversible, isn't it? Like, if, the unit I bought was reversible, everything's reversible if it goes wrong. So, yeah.
And what would you say to anyone who's facing their own challenges or doubts about whether they can make property investing work for them?
I'd just say, look after your brain health. Like, if you're looking after your physical health, then the rest will flow, and just play the long game. And you don't need a husband. It's great.
You can do it on your own if you need to.
You can do it on your own. Yes. Yeah, being focused on your career so that you sort of can have good earning capacity to sort of, be flexible when industries change, and so you're sort of not locked into, just sort of being one step ahead of all that.
I think with you too, like, you've had the belief obviously that you can do it. You've bought property before as well, so, and just sort of having that trust in the process as well.
Yeah, and just the excitement of just the retail high of buying a new property. So yeah, it's about to turn 50 and about to buy a piece of land. So that's exciting. So yeah, just sort of, it's a nice present to buy myself. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, and I mean, doing the cash flow calculator, you had a great cash flow calculator because you had a cash deposit. So it was quite, it was a really good, cash flow for you. So yeah, it's going to be all good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Jane, for sharing that story.
Thanks,
got some beautiful comments in here from all of our lovely members. Well done, Jane. What else? Thank you for sharing your journey. Great work, Jane. You can read all the comments there anyway. So thank you so much. I know, like, hearing from other people and just, how they've gone in their journey and what they've done does, obviously help all of our other members. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. And we're going to say goodbye to our Facebook group now. I'm just going to the private group and just go through our topic for tonight over the next 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to wrap this up. So goodbye, Facebook community.